the Commonwealth. Now, the Archbishop of Canterbury invited people in Westminster Abbey and those watching and listening at home to pledge allegiance to our new king. And the capital is buzzing, I know, because I've been stuck in it for ages, and the weather, well, it was never going to dampen our spirits, was it? And the crowds on the Mall, I've walked through them, they loudly chanted, "God save the King." We'll be looking back at today's historic events and forward to the coronation parties and the celebrations. All of that is coming up. But first, is your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the day's news at 4:01. The King has been crowned the nation's monarch in the first coronation ceremony at Westminster Abbey for 70 years. Just after midday, the Archbishop of Canterbury placed St Edward's crown on His Majesty's head, fulfilling King Charles's destiny. The multi-faith ceremony, a change from previous coronations, was watched around the world and followed the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, in September. During the ceremony, King Charles III promised to use justice and mercy in all his judgments.
Will you solemnly promise and swear to govern the peoples of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, your other realms and the territories to any of them belonging or pertaining, according to their respective laws and customs?
I solemnly promise so to do.
Will you, to your power, cause law and justice in mercy to be executed in all your judgments?
I will.
The Prince of Wales paid homage to his father during the ceremony, the only blood prince to do so.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
Afterwards, Prince William kissed Charles on the cheek, and the King said a few words to his son. Although Prince Harry did not take an active part in the ceremony, he could be seen repeating the words, "God save King Charles." Immediately after the King, Queen Camilla was anointed and crowned with Queen Mary's crown by the Archbishop of Canterbury. Well, around 2,200 guests filled Westminster Abbey for the historic occasion. Alongside members of the royal family, the coronation was attended by the Prime Minister and his wife, former Prime Ministers, other UK elected officials, faith leaders and local heroes. Members of foreign royalty, world leaders and heads of the Commonwealth were also invited, alongside some well-known celebrities. The Duke of Sussex observed the coronation of his father from the third row of the Abbey. Prince Harry's seat was 2 rows behind his brother, the Prince of Wales. He was joined by his uncle, Andrew, the Duke of York. Earlier, Buckingham Palace confirmed that neither would play a formal role at the event, as they are no longer working royals. The coronation was Harry's first public appearance with his relatives since criticising many of them in his memoir Spare. The Duchess of Sussex stayed at home in California with the couple's children. Gun salutes have been held around the UK to mark the crowning of the King. At Horse Guards Parade in London, the King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery, fired a 6-gun salute. In Wales, the 104th Regiment Royal Artillery performed a 21-gun salute at Cardiff Castle. At Edinburgh Castle, the 105th Regiment Royal Artillery fired a 21-gun salute as well, and members of the 3rd Battalion of the Royal Regiment of Scotland and instructors of the Army Cadet Force played the national anthem. And in Northern Ireland, the 206th Ulster Battery of the same regiment also fired a 21-gun salute at Hillsborough Castle. The Fort Guard, who has been involved in every coronation event since 1660, also took part. Well, to round off the historic day, the King and Queen waved from the balcony of Buckingham Palace to thank the thousands who'd gathered in all weathers to pay their respects to the new monarchs. King Charles and Queen Camilla were also joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales and their 3 children. Princess Charlotte also seen waving to well-wishers. 2 of the King's siblings, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, also came out. Due to the weather, a scaled-back fly-past of Royal Air Force jets, including the famous Red Arrows, flew over the palace to delight the thousands of onlookers. Just hours before King Charles's coronation, police arrested the leader of an anti-monarchy group, Republic, along with a number of other protesters lining the procession route. Republic had previously promised to stage the biggest protest against a British monarch in modern history. Protesters dressed in yellow T-shirts demanded an elected head of state and said the royal family has no place in modern constitutional democracy. Police also seized placards and paint. A number of Just Stop Oil protesters were also arrested. You're up to date on GB News. Now let's get back to Nana.
This is GB News. Great to have your company. We'll bring you more news as it happens, but now it's back to Alistair Stewart and Friends, which was on earlier. But if you just joined me, I'm Nana Akua. Welcome. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. On Coronation Day, we want to know what you're doing. How has your coronation been? What have you been celebrating? Your thoughts on our new King and Queen. Send all of your photos as well. GBviews at gbnews.uk or tweet us at GBnews. Right now today, politicians, celebrities, foreign leaders and dignitaries came together to celebrate the coronation of our King Charles. In fact, inside Westminster Abbey, more than 2,000 people gathered to watch the coronation. It was like a global who's who, from Prince William and Kate, Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer to President Macron of France, Jill Biden and Katy Perry, Ant and Dec, who joined 400 people from chosen royal charities at Westminster Abbey to watch the historic occasion. And also watching, but from outside Westminster Abbey, was royal biographer Angela Levin and GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker. So Angela, I want to start with you, and it's good to see you. What has been the highlight of the day for you?
I think there's been innumerable highlights, actually. It's very hard to pick them. But one is that Catherine and William's children, I thought they behaved absolutely perfectly. I saw when Prince George was ready picking it up, he just picked it up and suddenly remembered, and he put his shoulders right back.
I know, so
and he stood very, very straight, and he concentrated incredibly hard. And then Princess Charlotte, who was like a big sister to holding on to Louis. And I just think they all looked just gorgeous. Louis was marvellous. He was singing God Save the Queen very loudly. So and I think that from that sort of family, actually you do, I feel maybe like the Queen felt that, you know, that the monarchy is safe with William's hands and safe with the next generation. That cheered me up no end.
It was nice, wasn't it?
Very.
And Cameron, what about you? I mean, you've been doing this whole thing all day. Well, I mean, you know, the whole thing, in my view, has been quite impressive.
I think it's been so successful. I mean, despite the weather conditions, the crowds were ecstatic. First, watching the King's procession of the King and Queen travelling from Buckingham Palace down the Mall towards Westminster Abbey. There was a little bit of I think they arrived early, actually, because there was a bit of a pause before they got into Westminster Abbey, but nonetheless they got in. Then that historic moment of King Charles being crowned with St Edward's crown, the first time we have seen such a thing in almost 70 years, and that's the moment I thought wow, this is the real deal. This is how Britain does monarchy and pomp and pageantry. And then, of course, they came back to Buckingham Palace in the big coronation procession, the largest military procession since the late Queen's coronation 70 years ago. And that amazing balcony appearance, seeing the Prince and Princess of Wales, their children on the balcony, that next generation, but also the King and Queen's pages. And actually, it's the pages of the Queen which I found most interesting, because it was her grandchildren who we don't see in the limelight that often. And it's this idea of a blended family, because King Charles is their step-grandfather, and in private he'll be a very loving step-grandfather, but of course it's the first time we see him in the limelight, and now it's in the public interest to talk about it because they were her pages.
I thought the interesting bit was when he put the crown on his head, and you could see him sort of wobbling it around a bit to make sure that he wasn't going to get up and then it was going to fall off. And I thought to myself,
Camilla felt the same actually.
But she looked nervous. Did you not see?
Nervous.
There was a bit where the camera caught her, and she sort of looked nervous, and she hadn't had her turn yet. So Charles had done his, and then the camera came to her, and she slightly looked a bit. I literally saw her going, "I'm next soon."
Did you notice though that they didn't look at each other almost the whole time until it became after the crown? And I think that was because if they did, they would have burst into tears because it was so emotional.
Aww.
I mean, King Charles was very emotional. I mean, he had a hard job, I think, blinking his eyes so he doesn't really show it. But it must have been amazing, partly because of his mother, partly because where he is after all these decades. And I think that they just felt that they couldn't look at each other because it would all fall apart. And, people might have thought that she wasn't so interested, but of course not. It was just that it was too dangerous.
But you know, look, there's still loads of things happening. People are still celebrating. There's thousands of people have been on the Mall. Many have actually come out for days to watch today's ceremony. Even the rain didn't put them off. Our national reporter Paul Hawkins is among them.
Yeah, hi Nana. We're down here. People have been finding a way, but there's still a lot of people here at the moment, kind of just savouring the atmosphere and processing that historic occasion that we just witnessed. Some of those people include Phil and Florence, who are from the Solomon Islands. Guys, thanks for speaking to us. And Phil, you flew in especially for this, didn't you? Because you're studying down in Brighton, aren't you?
Yes.
Florence. But Phil, you've come all the way from the Solomon Islands. Why did you feel you had to be here for this kind of occasion?
This is a historical moment. The Solomons was part of the British Protectorate, was a British Protectorate back in the 1800s. And so the last coronation was in the 1960s with late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And this happens to be the time we are around, so yeah, it's a very important moment in history.
What sort of day have you had, Florence?
Oh, brilliant day, extraordinary, witnessing history in the making. Never regret this. I'm so proud and feel so privileged to be part of this.
Yeah, yes. But which bit of the day? What did you make of the ceremony, or was it the procession for you, or was it just all of it?
I was just absorbing all of it. The crowd, the vibe, all the procession going on, and the planes flying over. Yeah. I'll
be honest, I've not been to the Solomon Islands. How does this weather compare to the Solomon Islands?
It's a bit wet compared to the Solomons. It's a bit drier in the Solomons.
Yeah.
But today, the weather doesn't diminish anything at all. We didn't feel that it's bad weather. It's just the moment just took over. The ceremony, the pomp, the history.
Yeah. Did you join in with that bit where they invited members of the public to make their pledge to King Charles? Did you do that bit?
I was out. I didn't do that, but yeah, I heard that. I think that's important. Yeah. It's a change, and I think reflects the times that we're in.
Yeah, and just out of interest, back in the Solomon Islands, will everyone been watching on TV? How will they have celebrated?
Maybe some people would be watching on TV or reading the newspaper about it, or
parties.
Maybe for the government, probably.
Yeah, we have our representative of the King.
Yeah.
Who's the Governor General is here.
Yeah.
With a party officials, but the government would be celebrating that, and many people will be celebrating it.
Cracking open a few drinks, etc.
Yeah,
brilliant. Thanks for speaking to us. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So that's Phil and Flo from the Solomon Islands. So many people from across the world here, kind of reflecting the diversity of the service, which we know Prince Charles played a big part in bringing to it in terms of reflecting the diversity and multicultural modern Britain.
Well, I mean, you know, it's just, thank you very much, Paul. It's good to talk to you. Just keep chatting to the people out there, because I've been out there and they are really having a good time. The atmosphere is quite incredible, as you could imagine. This is obviously a big historic event, and not only has today made history with all the pomp and ceremony of the crowning of the King and Queen, but it's also been a lot of fun. Now, my regular Saturday panellists, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundian, broadcaster, and also political commentator Sam Dowler are no strangers to fun. I can tell you they really aren't. And they don't need to be asked twice to attend a party. I don't know who to go. I'm going to start with Lizzie Cundian, the queen of parties. Lizzie, what's been going down where you are?
Well, we've had street parties. The rain didn't deter us. There's such a great atmosphere, and all generations, can I say, I have got all the young supporting the King, and it has been not just magical, magnificent, spectacular, but we are watching living history, and it has been really something very, very special today.
Well, you looked very party-like, and Sam Dowler with your great British hat. What's been going on where you are? Have you grown yourself a beard in all this time that I haven't seen you for a week?
No, I don't go. I've let myself go, Nana, since last Saturday. No, look, we've had people round since about 11 o'clock watching all of the ceremony and stuff, and I have to say, like, a special mention to Penny Mordaunt, who just I thought was fabulous and looked fabulous. I mean, none of us even knew that she would have such a huge role, and she helped design that dress herself. She's been doing press-ups so she could hold the sword up. I mean, wow. I mean, make her queen. No, I think it's been fabulous, and I'm a huge royalist, and obviously not to put a negative stance on things, but like, I mean, I've been arguing with people on Facebook this whole week. You know, friends of mine. So I think obviously it's not to everyone's taste in the current climate, but I think that it is something that brings us all together. I mean, this is the third massive national royal thing we've had within a year. We've had the Queen's funeral, we've had the Jubilee, and then obviously now the coronation. So, I mean, what I love about it all is that it does bring people together. I love, you know, like when you catch somebody's eye, you want to say, like, you know, happy coronation day, something like that. I just think it's definitely something that, and I know that my sister and my family with their young kids are watching them, because obviously young kids are not involved in politics. They don't care about, like, you know, cost of living, stuff like that, because they don't understand it, and nor should they. And so for kids especially, I mean, they look at Kate Williams' kids and they're like, oh my god, look at those kids having such a good time. And, like, you know, and my nieces and nephews and family all over the world have massively enjoyed it as well. It is definitely one for all the family, and I know Lizzie said that the rain hasn't deterred them, but, like, oh, it is coming down here in Hertfordshire.
But look, every coronation has had rain going back centuries. It's a common theme, but it hasn't deterred us. We've had a great celebration of all ages, let I say. And we're talking about the monarchy. Long live it reign, because, you know, those protesters didn't win today, and this weekend alone has boosted the economy 8 billion, let me tell you. So long live the King.
Long live the King. Did you pledge your allegiance? It was very short. They cut bits out of that, didn't they? I got my kids together. I said, come on, everybody. And we started. But what I would have liked when they did that, listen to me now, I'm already like thinking of what I could have. I would have liked there to be gaps. So they could have done one line and then given me a chance to sort of, do you know what I mean? Because I didn't have the script. So I did one line and then they were doing the other line. And I was like, come on then, kids. And they were like, And Ivory, my son, he's only 5. So he'd obviously forgotten what was said a little bit earlier. So it was like a bit of a... I mean, I'm glad they shortened it in a way, because otherwise we'd never have kept up.
Did today, so well behaved. Remember him from the Jubilee, who was acting up. He was, you know, the kids were incredible today, and little Princess Charlotte waving, it broke my heart. It was so, I actually felt very emotional, really did.
what do you make of the idea? Because there was that graph a little while ago that suggested that the young people weren't really that interested in the monarchy. Do you think that today would have slightly changed a lot of their views, especially seeing the royal family are a family, so you've got young people and people in the middle and older people, and they're all one big family, attracting all parts, different audiences. I mean, Lizzie, do you think that perhaps actually young people, as a result of being part of this and seeing this, might sort of think actually the monarchy is a good thing and actually we want to be part of it?
Well, definitely today, watching this, I will think it will attract more youngsters to support the monarchy, without a doubt. It was layered in history, it was incredible, but we also saw Prince William paying homage to his father. Very unusual. This has never happened before. There was a woman as the bishop. It was incredible. And when William actually kissed his father, it really did. I don't think anyone there watching it wouldn't have really made them feel quite emotional. It was incredible. And I have a wonderful 15-year-old with me now who absolutely is thrilled to bits to be part of this huge occasion. Here is my friend Indy, who's only 15 years old and is so happy to be part of this huge occasion. Aren't you, Indy?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're loving today?
Yeah, I'm loving today. I just think it's a really inspirational moment, and I think for a lot of young people, I've really come to sort of look up to the monarchy from today. I just think, yeah, especially with a lot of doom and gloom recently, it's been a really uplifting event.
There we go.
You two could be sisters, crikey. Listen, Lizzie Cundy, thank you very much. Stand down. Look, really good to talk to you.
It went to
Thank you so much, guys.
And it really was something so special.
Thank you very much, lovely Lizzie. Just cut her off mid-chat. Never mind, she'll be back. You're watching and listening to GBNews live from Buckingham Palace. I'm Nana Akua. Loads more coming up on today's show. I'll be joined by Dr. David Starkey, who'll be reflecting on the coronation ceremony at Westminster Abbey.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political budgets.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, dignitaries and politicians travelled from all over the Commonwealth and the world to attend the service at Westminster Abbey. Now, these included President Macron of France, also Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Jill Biden, wife of American President Joe Biden. And after the ceremony in Westminster Abbey, the King and Queen returned to Buckingham Palace in the Gold State Coach in a procession consisting of thousands of armed forces personnel. Now, joining me to discuss this is historian Dr. David Starkey. Now, do you know, I watched the coronation ceremony. I thought it was absolutely fabulous. There were elements in it, though, that because I know that at the beginning there was the oath, and now there were the "Are you willing?" questions and the promises. But this was an oath modified by the Queen, as I understand it. That's what they said by Queen Elizabeth.
What happened was, at the beginning, there was what's called a preface. The oath itself is determined by statute. It's laid down back to Parliament of 1689, and the King has to promise to rule according to the law, to do justice in mercy and in truth, and to sustain the Protestant religion. Right. What the Archbishop's opening said, in words borrowed directly from the late Queen Elizabeth, was the Anglican Church exists not simply to defend the Protestant faith, but to act as a kind of umbrella to all faiths. Right. And it was one of the really striking things about the whole of this service, how far the late Queen has become a kind of, almost like a new Edward the Confessor, a new founding saint, because you took that idea from something she'd said. You also took that extraordinary opening where the little lad sort of says to the King, more or less, "What are you here for?" and he said, "I come not to be served, but to serve." That was one of the great the themes of her life. Long before she became Queen, the extraordinary statement, in those days it was called the Empire. We better keep
careful, don't let Hershey say that.
Don't let's get cancelled again. It was called the Empire, and she makes that promise to serve it to the best of her ability for the a girl of 21 for the rest of her life. And I think this idea was woven in, this idea of service was woven into the service. It's of course got very deep echoes in Christianity. The Pope is called the servant of the servants of God, but it also echoed things in then Prince Charles's own experience as Prince of Wales. He has this motto which goes right back to the Black Prince, to the eldest son of Edward III, and the motto of Ich dien, with the prince's feather, which means I serve. Yes, and it's this idea of a monarchy which doesn't embody power. It embodies a notion of commitment, service, participation, duty. You see,
and I like the participation element. Now, he added a bit, though, didn't he? Because he added the King's Prayer, which has never been done before.
That has never been done
and
before.
And he added that bit in there. And do you know what? When I listened to that, I felt, and I don't know whether, and I know he wouldn't put a dig into Harry and Meghan, but I felt that there was, but I think there was a message there, because he talked about the children and the young people, and then he talked about being led into the paths of peace and everything. And I felt that element was a conversation that he was kind of talking to other generations and saying that that's what I felt when I listened to it. That was my immediate instinct.
I think that the very fact that, you know, however briefly and however in fact awkwardly, I thought Harry looked profoundly awkward.
Well, he did, yes.
He looked profoundly awkward. But, you know, he was there because both on his part there is clearly more than residual affection. I think on his father's part there is profound affection. I mean, indeed, this was one of my most powerful memories of the service, which was when the Prince of Wales played, in other words, William, paid his formal homage to his father. You know, that I've done that gesture too. When I took my degree at Cambridge, you do exactly the same thing. Your hands go up and they're enclosed, you're kneeling, and then when he leaned over and kissed his father on the cheek, you could see there was almost a tear in the King's eyes. It was and apparently the lip readers say, he said, "Thank you, William." There was that sense of a profound, there was something profoundly touching. What I worry about, though, is that the whole service sort of showed, everybody's been talking about a slimmed-down monarchy. It showed a monarchy that's really down to a single tiny family line.
But that's what it's always been, isn't it, really? And actually the Queen did her bit by, you know, sustaining it for such a long time that it allowed Charles to have, you know, and his children to have children, so that, and obviously the lineage is now quite broad.
Oh, in that sense, the line of succession is better guaranteed than it's ever been. Yeah. But what I was really trying to say was that it's now a father, son, and grandchildren. Rather than the enormous royal family of the Victorian period, or, above all, in the earlier 20th century, the coronation of the Queen, the royal family at the head of a kind of social apex.
Well, do you know what, though? I think that the way life is now, I think it's more fitting, and especially with the behaviour of some of the other royals.
No names, no fact,
no, nothing to say here. But do you know what I mean? I think people would respect it better that way, that those who aren't within the sort of direct line of succession should actually kind of just take a back seat. And I mean, I would go as far as to say that those who aren't literally in that line of succession, I don't know whether their titles should continue. I think they should have a certain duration of time with which they could perhaps take, you know, heaven forbid anything should happen, but ultimately I think they should be removed from the line. But I just wanted to ask you, there was the epistle that Richard Sunak, I thought he did a really, and Penny Mordaunt, who sort of, when she was given her job, it was almost as though she'd been demoted, but she wasn't. She obviously, the Queen's death, she had quite a strong role in that. She had a very strong role in this as well. She's very good at sort of these sort of ceremonious occasions.
I think she's wonderful.
Isn't she?
I can practically see her as the prow of an 18th century warship. You know, she's a statuesque woman, and it's bizarre. Of course, carrying a sword is traditionally a male role, but she performed it magnificently. I mean, going back to the Prime Minister, he read extremely well. It was remarkable that as a man of a different faith, he read from the Epistle to the Colossians beautifully, with I thought more than simply a mechanical sense of. I
think what you're trying to say is that's probably one of his best performances, really, because he's quite he came across quite fluidly, even though he was obviously reading it, and usually he can be quite. He reads well. He reads well, but the word I think is the word I've got the word that I wanted. The tone is sincerity, and I was very touched and impressed by that. Well, listen, don't go anywhere, David, because we're going to move on to the news, but stay with me, because if you just joined us, welcome on board. This is GB News, live on TV, online and on digital radio. Plenty more still to come this afternoon. We'll be catching up with my regular Saturday panellists, Lizzie Hundy and Sam Downer. We'll check in to see how they're getting on with their coronation parties and going. And we'll also be hearing from some of our great British voices to see what they've been doing during these celebrations. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Bethany.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. Here's a roundup of today's events at 4:30. King Charles III and Queen Camilla have appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace to wave to the thousands of people who'd gathered to pay their respects to the new monarchs. They were joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales and their 3 children. 2 of the King's siblings, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, also came out to greet supporters. Due to the bad weather, a scaled-back fly-past of Royal Air Force jets, including the famous Red Arrows, flew over the palace. The King has become the 40th monarch to be crowned at Westminster Abbey in the first coronation ceremony there for 7 decades. Just after midday, the Archbishop of Canterbury placed St Edward's crown on His Majesty's head, fulfilling King Charles's destiny. The multi-faith ceremony, a change from previous coronations, was watched around the world and follows the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, in September.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
In a touching moment, the Prince of Wales pledged himself to his father during the ceremony. Afterwards, Prince William kissed Charles on the cheek, and the new king said a few words to his son. Although Prince Harry didn't take an active part in the ceremony, he could be seen repeating the words, "God save King Charles." Around 2,200 guests filled Westminster Abbey for the historic occasion. Alongside members of the royal family, the Prime Minister and his wife, former Prime Ministers, faith leaders and local heroes attended. Members of foreign royalty, world leaders and heads of the Commonwealth were also invited, alongside some well-known celebrities. On TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn, this is GB News.
Welcome back. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. We continue with our coverage of the coronation after King Charles III was anointed at Westminster Abbey earlier today. Now, crowds gathered along the route of the procession to grab a glimpse of the new monarch, and now many of us are celebrating the coronation of our king, including my regular Saturday panellists, of course, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also broadcaster and political commentator Sam Dowler, who are both at parties. No surprises there. I'm going to go to you, Sam, now. What's going down where you are now, your party? Is it just you? You're not having a party on your own?
Well, party for one. Well, no, I make a party, Nana. You know this to be true. But we've had people round, but it's not. But at some point, I thought that the big concert was tonight, but it's not. It's tomorrow. So obviously the rain, and we had like my friends in their 30s, and and they have obviously they wanted to watch the coronation and stuff, but after that it was a bit like anything else going on. So things have abated. But I'm supposed to be going to a street party after this. But again, the weather is so dreadful. I can't remember the last time it rained all day like this.
It's a bit like a barbecue that you cook the food in your kitchen and just put it through the window. Lizzie Cundy, what about you? It's cook it in your house. I often don't see
and everyone had Prince Charles' mask on, which I loved. So everyone looked like King Charles, and it was incredible. But the weather doesn't, this is typical British, isn't it? Having a bit of rain, it doesn't deter anyone, and such a great celebration. And as I said, what I loved about my party, I had loads of the younger generation here celebrating the coronation, which really made my heart melt. But all those protesters and everyone that said they were going to really disrupt the coronation, you didn't win at all. We didn't see you, we didn't hear you, and we all had a jolly good time. And that's why I'm really happy today, because we can see a future for the monarchy, and that's what's so lovely with Prince William, giving that homage to his father today, a kiss on the cheek. We saw, King Charles say thank you to his son, and that really, made my heart for one melt.
Well, Lizzie, you're cracking up a bit. Your screen's going a bit funny, but it sounds like you're having a good time. But listen, stay with us. Obviously, we'll carry on catching up with you throughout the programme. But just before we chat with our great British voices, we can go live now to our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, who's been out and about meeting royal fans on the Mall. Paul, talk me through what's been going on where you are, Paul. Where's Paul Hawkins gone? Is he?
That's kind of what
oh,
is
there
happening,
he is.
to be honest. Yeah, I'm just saying, Anna, people are walking around and they're kind of just trying to take in what's happening and just taking in the atmosphere. And every now and then, those gates over there open, there's a big cheer and loads of phones go up in the air and everyone around here wanders around saying, who the hell's that? And then the gates close again. But let's talk to a family who are from the northeast. So what's your name?
Hello, I'm Michelle.
You're Michelle?
Peter.
What's your name?
Well,
Hiya, guys. And where are you guys from?
Middlesbrough.
Right, now, how much have you seen today?
Not much.
Not a lot. Not a lot! And you come all the way from Middlesbrough.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let's go through what you have seen.
Right, we've seen the top of the coach.
We went to Trafalgar
As it came
Square at the
down.
start and we've seen the procession go to the Westminster and that. Got to see the top of the coach, but...
Okay, so the top of the coach?
Yeah.
Right, okay. And what, was that when it was going there or coming back?
Going there.
Going there.
It was going
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
okay. And then once everyone was inside, did you manage to watch the ceremony?
We caught a little bit because we had to go back over to
There's
Hyde
roadblocks
Park.
all over the place and it took us ages to get to Hyde Park. We got there and it was halfway through the ceremony, wasn't it?
We did see the crown going on though.
Ah,
which is the
well,
main-
that's the main bit, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's the main
So,
bit.
what's been your favourite bit of today, given you've probably done a lot of walking, I imagine?
Yes, a
There was
lot.
a pint afterwards.
That's the best bit of the day, isn't it?
Crown.
Was it worth coming down from
Oh
Borough?
God, yeah, the
Yeah, it's a
atmosphere is
good
lovely.
atmosphere.
Yeah, really
Yeah,
good.
Just expand on that a little bit for us, like in terms of how it feels and...
Well, it takes your breath away. Do you know what I mean? A lot of it takes your breath away. You know, like it's the atmosphere. Everyone's dead friendly, aren't they? We've met loads of people while we were huddled in the crowds.
Yeah.
But it's just nice. We like to come down when there's like a wedding or anything like that. So we come down quite a bit to see
We were at the
these.
funeral last year.
Yeah.
So, would you call yourself royalists?
I would.
You would?
I would myself a little bit.
You love
yeah.
it, don't you? She
Yeah,
loves it. So.
but you sounds like you wouldn't though.
I like it. I keep it happy.
No, because you don't have to be, because it seems to be the kind of occasion that
No,
sucks in
no,
people,
I like
even
it.
if they're not royalists.
We've met Charles, so we've.
You met Charles?
We've met Charles.
How did you not tell me that at the beginning? So, talk me through that. What happened?
I used to work in the steelworks at Redcar.
Oh, yeah?
I was there about 30 years and we got invited to a meet and greet with Prince Charles at the time. So I was invited, and Michelle was saying, can you get me invited as well? So I got Michelle an invite, and we had like a horseshoe. We come round, shook his hand, spoke to him and that. And,
What did you say to him?
Just...
I've got his spare room.
I mean, what do you say when you meet Prince Charles?
Well, that's Shelley, because she jumped in front of him.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't really go by the protocol actually. I went up to him and I was
Did
just.
you do or whatever it is you do?
No,
I don't even know
I
what you do.
I forgot.
Right, so what, you just
After
shook his
the-
hand? And...
He gave us all
Yeah, I
a
shook
talk
our
and
hand,
that.
and he was like apologising for how long we'd had to wait. But I was
really?
like rubbing his arm and saying, "Oh, don't worry about it, that's fine."
Little fella there, he was there as well.
He was only
You
little.
were there as well.
Yeah.
Do you remember meeting Prince Charles? Or as he was Prince Charles?
Not really. Wouldn't shake
No,
his
not
hand.
really. You wouldn't shake his
He
hand?
wouldn't shake his hand, no. So
Right.
Prince Charles just rubbed him on the edge.
Quite intimidating then.
And then he came back and then apologised again, and he was really nice.
Yeah, seems like a nice bloke.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Great, excellent. So,
Yeah.
so when you're coming back to London, what's the next occasion?
Probably Williams. Coronation.
Okay, hopefully not for a while though. We've had quite a few royal events.
Probably a concert. Hopefully when Borough win the championship
No,
playoff
that won't
final.
happen.
Okay, I thought you might mention that. Yeah, up the Borough. Yeah, great
the
to speak
Borough,
to you.
yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers. Have a great day. Thanks a lot. See, so many diverse people. We spoke to someone from the Solomon Islands earlier, speaking to people from Middlesbrough there. Telling Nana, even though they've done a lot of walking around London today, and they haven't actually seen a lot, and they only saw the top of the coach, they still had a great day. Hi, how are you? You all right?
Fine, yes.
Are you having a good time? I can't tell if you're having a good time or not.
Yes, it's a good time. Yes.
Yeah, where have you come from?
From Italy.
From Italy?
From Italy, yes.
Yeah, do you get this
Sicily.
kind of... From Sicily?
Yeah.
Wow, and do you get this kind of thing in Sicily?
Yes, yes. The evenement, yes.
Yes. Today for you? What was your favourite bit of today?
The parade.
Yeah.
The parade, yes.
Yeah.
Very nice.
The coach?
Yeah,
the gold
everything.
coat.
Yeah,
I bet
everything.
you
Yeah,
did, didn't
everything.
you?
Amazing.
Molto bene. Thank
Molto
you.
bene.
Great, thank you. Grazie. And you come from Italy too. And what about this chap? And what about this chap? They're just queuing up here. What about this chap? Wow. Okay, what's this guy's name?
Woody.
Woody, nice to meet you, Woody.
My bark.
How has he been today?
A little bit wet and cold, bless him. But
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
He enjoyed it.
But he wasn't fazed by the crowds or the noise or the gun
A
salutes.
little bit, because he's so tiny. But
Yeah. So what
he
you
enjoyed it.
held him for most of it?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. And what about yourself? Have you enjoyed? How much have you enjoyed
Oh,
today?
wait, this is an historical moment, so I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah. And your favourite part of today?
The coronation I found it emotional. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
Italian, so I'm not.
Yeah,
but
Italians
I
are not known for being emotional, are they? But the ceremony, I'm joking. But the ceremony, which bit of...
Well, apart from the ointment, that was but then when they put the crown on him, I thought that was really emotional. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was quite touching when Prince William was down on one knee and he was giving...
No, is that?
I just thought, is he going to call him Dad or not?
Oh, no.
I wouldn't. Yeah, but yeah.
That was good too.
That was
You're
good
right.
as well, wasn't
yeah.
it? Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, no, really good. Very pleased to be here.
Yeah, great,
Where
excellent.
are you
Thank you for
guys
speaking
from?
to us, GB News.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Ciao. Molto bene. Great. So they're queuing up to talk to us down here, but everyone wants to share these kind of experiences and memories and moments. That's what these kind of occasions are all about.
And this one will share the experience.
Well, listen, Paul, thank you very much for that. It's great. People queuing up to talk to you as well. Thank you so much, Paul. Speak to you soon. This is, of course, the GB News. If you've just joined us, where have you been? Surely you've watched parts of the coronation. Let's find out what our great British voices have to say about that. Let's have a quick chat with Lee Webb. He's in Bedford, and Dr. Sashi Mudia in Milton Keynes. I'll start with you, Lee. How was your coronation? And did you sort of go along with the whole sort of...
Considering I spent most of it on my own. But yeah, I thought it was amazing. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of Charles. He isn't my favourite. It is Anne, but it was an amazing day watching that ceremony and the parade back with all them soldiers. I know, as an ex-soldier, just how proud those guys are marching. I mean, I've been in a lot smaller parades, nothing this big, none of the Jubilee parades I've ever done. But when I've been on parade, the chest comes out, you know, and it's big, and that pride. And I know how them young men marching with the royal family would have felt.
Well, listen, it looks lovely. I like the picture there as well as where you were watching it. And what about you, Seshni? How's yours been? And, you know, did your family go along with the whole sort of going along with the oath that we were sort of not pledge allegiance? I know they sort of changed the wording of it, but did you go along with that part of it as well?
Good afternoon, Nana. What a wonderful celebration. Yes, my family and I had a wonderful day. It was such a blessed coronation, and congratulations to King Charles and Queen Camilla. We celebrated in Milton Keynes at the Vihara celebration, the Buddhist community of mindfulness and meditation, and it was represented with multi-faith. As you saw at the coronation, it was the same in this celebration. About 80 people from Milton Keynes got together from the Milton Keynes Hindu Association, the Buddhist community, the Sai community, and other faiths and Christianity, and everyone was just so in awe of the ceremony. As someone else said, it was very emotional. You know, for me, the whole entire process was very emotional and touching. And I kept on thinking, I wonder what King Charles was thinking, because it was really truly an historic moment, not only for Britain, but for all the Commonwealth countries. And it was wonderful to watch it on GB News as well. I watched the initial part on GB News. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Seshni. Thank you so much, Seshni, and also thank you so much to Lee Webb. They're our great British voices. They've been celebrating the coronation. How has your coronation been? You can always send us a message. You can tweet us at GB News or GBViews at gbnews.uk. This is GB News, of course, and plenty more still to come this afternoon. Lots to do, including the artist behind many of the tribute sketches during the funeral of the late Queen Elizabeth. Well, now she's released another sketch marking the coronation of King Charles, and broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford will be here to tell us why the coronation was just the tonic for all of us. Stay tuned, back in a moment.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, today is a day of celebration, much needed by many of us after the last few difficult years. Remember COVID? Well, joining me to talk about this is broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Lucy, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. How was your coronation? How's it been for you?
Oh, I've been quite overwhelmed by it. I didn't realise that combination of the spectacle of it and just that oral sensation of incredible music would really touch me so powerfully, because there suddenly you saw something that had taken place repeatedly over time for over the last 1,000 years, and suddenly we get to witness that as well, and that felt incredibly special.
Now, a lot of people were talking about it unifying us. Some people didn't want to participate. A lot of people had other things to do. But do you think, how does it unify us in a sense?
It unifies us through a sense of history and continuity. The fact that the monarchy has been part of the United Kingdom's psyche for so many hundreds of years is something that is very regular and containing. So from a psychological point of view, it's a very important barometer. It serves not just a constitutional role, but also a profoundly, deeply psychological role, that we've always had this family at the head of our nation. Now, as you say, some people might not approve of that. They might want to resist it. But the very fact that it exists is something that characterizes our nation. Many other countries don't have what we have. But it also provides that sense of containment, that sense of continuity. And as you say, we've had 2 or 3 pretty turbulent years, not just from a health point of view, but also economically, politically. But the monarchy has survived. And what we saw so dramatically last year was that at the very moment of intense political and economic instability, we actually had something very profoundly stable, even though it was actually the death of a queen and the ascension of a king. A moment of profound transition, turning a page, and yet the very seamlessness of it, the fact that he became king automatically on the death of his mother, then showed that sense of continuity, which was very, very stabilizing for a nation that was actually about to go through 40 or 50 days of great turmoil.
Well, listen, Lucy, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your thoughts, and keep enjoying this coronation because it is lovely. That's broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Angela Levin also joins me. Angela, you heard what Lucy said. We've got a couple of minutes to sort of briefly chat about the sort of psychological effects that you think that this particular coronation had on people. Because a lot of people were some people thought they couldn't be bothered, but I think I have a sneaky feeling that they sort of checked in and watched a little bit.
I'm sure they did. I know a lot of people who didn't approve of the monarchy at all, but oh yes, of course I'm going to watch it. I think it calms you, it warms your heart. You feel about the family that they're together and that they're going to do good, they're going to help everybody they can, rather than thinking about themselves. I think that you could see the emotion on King Charles's face, and that made me cry, actually.
Did it?
Yeah, I did cry because I thought it was so moving. I thought he was thinking about his mother, he's thinking about all the decades he's had, and will it work out okay for Camilla, you know? And I just felt that was very warming. And then the wonderful military, which were no nonsense.
Yes.
And trust them for do everything right and to make us feel strong. And it was just amazing, all the sort of complexity of it all. So it really pleased me on lots of levels, emotional, practical, historical. I just thought it was brilliant. And when King Charles went in to have the oil on, we couldn't see him.
And the panels sort of come out, and it's all done sort of behind. You can't see what's going on.
Yes.
That's quite a nice sort of private moment, isn't it?
It is a private
moment. Then they put the oil, on his palms. They put it on the back of his hat, on his head,
and on his chest.
On his chest as well. Let's see. Yes.
Yes, very moving. And I felt that he would have this quiet talk to God, to think about it all. He's a great religious man, and he would think that, thank you, I'm here, you saved me. Really, it's very moving.
Look, you're doing it
very
again.
Moving.
But I was having a Twitter, well, not as a Twitter spat, it was a Facebook spat with someone on my little Facebook page, and I was having a spat with someone the other day, and they were saying, the monarchy, get rid of the monarchy, and I'm like, okay, it's funny that people have that conversation, but then when you come to the bit where you say, well, what would you put in its place? More politicians, and then there's sort of this a sort of sense of agreement that actually. And they were saying that, the monarchy, it's a waste of money, why don't we just get rid of it? And I'm like, but it's a net benefit in terms of all the people that came out to see this. I mean, even Paul Hawkins talking to people from all over the world who've come here to see this event.
Yeah, I mean, it says it costs a lot of money. It does, but it's only happening very rarely. I mean, we waited 70 years before we had to pay out again. But also, it's worth it because the royal family are going to bring, this coronation is going to bring at least £2 billion to the country. Now, people don't do that. They just say it looks very expensive. How much did that dress cost? Why have you got this? But actually, when you work it out, they are tremendously useful to us all and around the world too. I mean, I think it gives hope. They're polite, they know what they're doing, and they're caring for us. And I think it's very good.
Should I bring in Harry and Meghan at this juncture? Because do you think, because obviously Meghan would have definitely watched that, of course, wouldn't she?
Yes.
And I think it kind of reinforces the status of monarchy that had somewhat slightly diminished in a way because of all the shenanigans that have been going on, all the Netflix and all that.
Yes, that's right. I think she might probably be a bit cross that she wasn't
jealous.
there. Very jealous because Catherine looked absolutely gorgeous, as did the children. They looked absolutely stunning. But I felt very sorry for Harry. I mean, I know him quite well, and I felt very sorry. There he is walking down the aisle on his own, the last one of his cousins. And I thought that must take quite a lot of bravery, really, and I think she should have been there with him. I didn't want her there. I didn't want her there, but I think he needed somebody like that. But he was walking on with his...
She couldn't win, I think, on this one. If she'd arrived, everyone was, she would have been booed. If she hadn't come, then everyone's saying, oh, she should have come. I actually think she did the right thing, and if I'm honest deep down, I'd like to see them all getting on. I'd like to see them all getting on. I'd like, you know, that picture where her kids weren't in it, I would have liked to see them all. I'm sorry that they don't.
He whizzed off immediately.
I know,
he was in the airport in no time at all, so he didn't even have a chance to say congratulations to his father, to his brother, to his sister-in-law, to everyone.
Well, listen, Angela, we'll talk more in just a moment because we're coming up to the next hour. We've got our news headlines on the way. Stay tuned. Keep it locked to GB News. There's still so much more to come in the next hour. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. If you've just joined me, where on earth have you been? Surely you watched the Coronation on TV, on your screens. Now, history has been made. King Charles III is now our king, and Camilla, our queen, not queen consort, she's our queen now, on a day full of celebration of all across the country. And, of course, the Commonwealth, because there are plenty of countries that are very happy to have our monarchy and King Charles as head of state. Now, the Archbishop of Canterbury invited people in Westminster Abbey too, and that was an incredible celebration. There were some amazing things happening there as well, and people were listening and watching at home to pledge their allegiance to the new king. The capital is buzzing. I waded through the crowds to get here. The weather's awful, but hey, don't worry about it. This is the United Kingdom. That's what we expect. We'll just keep calm and carry on. But, well, how's it been going for you? Did the weather dampen your spirits? And the crowds across the Mall loudly chanted, God save the King. It was an incredible, momentous occasion. All of that and much more. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good evening, I'm Bethany Elsey with a look at today's highlights at 5:01. King Charles and Queen Camilla have appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace to thank the thousands who gathered in all weathers to pay their respects to the new monarchs. The King and Queen were welcomed by the crowds who cheered in celebration. They were joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales and their 3 children. Princess Charlotte also seen waving to well-wishers there in the front. 2 of the King's siblings, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, also came out to greet supporters. Due to the bad weather, a scaled-back fly-past of Royal Air Force jets, including the famous Red Arrows, flew over the crowds that filled the Mall and over the nation's new king. The King has become the 40th monarch to be crowned at Westminster Abbey in the first coronation ceremony there, to be held for 7 decades. The Archbishop of Canterbury placed St Edward's crown on His Majesty's head, fulfilling King Charles's destiny. The multi-faith ceremony, a change from previous coronations, was watched around the world and followed the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, in September. During the ceremony, King Charles promised to use justice and mercy in all his judgments.
Will you solemnly promise and swear to govern the peoples of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, your other realms and the territories to any of them belonging or pertaining, according to their respective laws and customs?
I solemnly promise so to do.
Will you, to your power, cause law and justice in mercy to be executed in all your judgments?
I will.
Immediately after the King, Queen Camilla was anointed and crowned with Queen Mary's crown by the Archbishop of Canterbury. And in a touching moment of the ceremony, the Prince of Wales pledged himself to his father.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
Prince William kissed Charles on the cheek, and the King said a few words to his son. Although Prince Harry didn't take an active part in the ceremony, he could be seen repeating the words, "God save King Charles." Around 2,200 guests filled Westminster Abbey for the historic occasion. Alongside members of the royal family, the Prime Minister and his wife, former Prime Ministers, faith leaders and local heroes attended. Members of foreign royalty, world leaders and heads of the Commonwealth were also invited, alongside some well-known celebrities. The Duke of Sussex observed the coronation of his father from the third row of the Abbey. Prince Harry's seat was 2 rows behind his brother, the Prince of Wales. He was joined by his uncle, Andrew, the Duke of York. Buckingham Palace confirmed that neither would play a formal role at the event, as they are no longer working royals. The coronation was Harry's first public appearance, with his relatives since criticising many of them in his memoir, Spare. The Duchess of Sussex stayed at home in California with the couple's children. In typical British weather, there was heavy rain, but that failed to dampen the enthusiasm of the crowds who'd gathered, hoping to catch a glimpse of the King and Queen. All procession viewing areas along the route were filled to capacity. Fans cheered Charles and Camilla as they travelled down the Mall in the gold stake carriage, many holding Union flag umbrellas and ponchos. We spoke to some of the 10,000 people who turned up.
Amazing, just absolutely amazing. Yeah, just congratulations to the King and Queen Camilla. Unbelievable.
Very wet, but tiring, but what a spectacle. Nobody else can do it better than us, can they?
We weren't expecting to see them on the balcony. We didn't think that we would get that close because we were quite far back. So, yeah, it's just a good day to be British.
We loved it. It was wonderful. If it wasn't so wet.
God save the King, God save the King, God save the King.
Gun salutes have been held around the UK to mark the crowning of the King. At Horse Guards Parade in London, the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery fired a 6-gun salute. In Wales, the 104th Regiment Royal Artillery performed a 21-gun salute at Cardiff Castle. At Edinburgh Castle, the 105th Regiment Royal Artillery fired a 21-gun salute as well, and members of the 3rd Battalion of the Royal Regiment of Scotland and instructors of the Army Cadet Force played the national anthem. And in Northern Ireland, the 206th Ulster Battery of the same regiment also fired a 21-gun salute. At Hillsborough Castle, the Fort Guard, who has been involved in every coronation event since 1660, also took part. You're up to date on GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens now. It's back to Nana.
Thank you, Bethany. Good evening. Well, it's coming up to evening, but I can tell you now, the weather is bad. It's all right, though. We're okay in here because we've got a little tent and everything, so we're okay. But it's everybody else. Seriously, it's bad weather, so apologies for the sound, but that's the way it goes. This is, of course, GB News. I'm Nana Akua. It's Coronation Day, and I want to know all about you and how you're celebrating your Coronation Day. Just email me at gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at GB News. How have you been marking and celebrating the special historic occasion? We'd love to see your photos as well. Now, you remember Kerry Cunningham from one of my previous shows. Now, she is the lady who drew, she won our hearts and minds because last year she released a drawing of the late Queen and her corgis after Her Majesty's passing. Now, this was a fabulous photo. If you're listening on radio, it's the photo where she was there with the rainbow and the corgis. Well, now Kerry's released a new sketch. It's dedicated to King Charles for the coronation, and it shows the former Queen sitting with one of her corgis, so her back is to us, and saying, "Send him my luck." And above her head are it's like a bit of bunting, and either side of this are two white doves, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Well, I'm very pleased to say that Kerry joins me now. Kerry, thank you very much for joining me during the coronation. Another fabulous sketch, I might add. Why, of course, why did you create this particular one?
Well, I was thinking I was going to make something to mark the coronation, and it just felt fitting, really. It just felt like it led on from my last piece, which was the Hello Again Lilibet drawing. Yeah, and it just felt a very me tribute to today. So, yeah, that's why, really.
Yeah, well, it's an absolutely beautiful sketch. I like the way that you've got what's that checkered pattern that they have in Scotland, the tartan. You got it's like a tartan sort of thing that she's sitting on, and she's sitting there on the grass there. For you, though, I mean, this coronation, I presume, has been very special. How have you celebrated it?
Well, to be honest, I've got 3 very young children, and it's all been focused around them, really. They've had quite a few things going on at their school. And I actually made quite a big piece for their school, which I'm very proud of. Probably more proud of it than the Hello Lilibet sketch. So yeah, it's just been focused around them, really, and sort of teaching them about it and letting them enjoy it, and just doing silly things like we had a lunch at school yesterday. So yeah, it's been a build up to it, and then today we've been at home. We've been watching it on the telly. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been lovely, hasn't it? So with this latest sketch, if people want to take a look at it, obviously, if they download the GBNews app, you can obviously check out the show and find out there. But if people want to find that sketch, and of course your other work, is there somewhere they can have a look at that?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Murphy Sketches on Instagram, and my website is www.murphysketches.co.uk. So there's a couple of coronation pieces on there that they can have a look at. But last year, the Hello Lilibet print, we actually raised nearly £18,000 for the NSPCC. So they may have seen that already, they might not have, but yeah, that's something I'm very proud of. So
wonderful. Well, listen, Kerry, keep sketching, and thank you so much for sharing your time with us and that beautiful piece of art. That, of course, is artist Kerry Cunningham, and that fabulous sketch. Now, if you just joined us, it's just coming up to 11 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. Welcome on board. I'm Nana Akua. And, of course, King Charles, as Prince, was known for being outspoken at times and having strong views on climate change, architecture and politics. We all know about that. But now, as King, he's not allowed to do that. He's going to have to bite his tongue, or will he? What do you think? What kind of a king will Charles be? Joining me to discuss is Angela Levin, royal biographer, and Rafe Hadel-Manku, royal broadcaster and historian. Rafe, I'm going to start with you because I haven't seen you for a while. I want to actually, before we get to that question, I want to find out about your experience and your thoughts on this coronation.
Oh, right, gosh, well, I thought it was glorious, actually. Sublime and majestic from beginning to end. Some people, including myself, were worried about the abandonment of some traditions and the modernisation.
Which
ultimately, well, things like homage of the peers and so forth, but ultimately it didn't matter because none of it detracted from the power and the majesty of that coronation service, actually. And for me, the most moving part of the 53 coronation and 2023 was when the King and Queen first. I've watched it many times. Glorious Technicolor.
I'd said, oh really? Yeah, as if you were there, you wouldn't have done that, would you? No, carry on. Sorry.
When they walk in to the sound of Parry's "I Was Glad," and the choral scholars of Westminster School sing the Vivat, the first people to actually acclaim the new sovereign. It's such a powerful moment. I don't mind saying I had a tear, more than one tear, in my eye at that moment. And then during the anointing, when we had Zadok the priest, that glorious tune, and you forget how many. Actually,
what was that song called then? The one where rejoice, God save the King, long live the King, and the anointing.
Zadok the priest. That
guy singing it. There was a guy.
Oh no, this was the entire choral piece that is sung at the most sacred moment of the coronation, when the King is shielded from view and then enters into that covenant with God. The sacrament of the oil is placed on his chest and his forehead and so forth, and that goes back to the time of King George II's coronation. That was so moving, and you actually have to remember how many of our great pieces of music were actually written for coronations. Actually, it's quite remarkable what sort of a legacy that's left on Western civilization. civilization, just our own coronation. But it also seemed, I think, very different to 53 because of technology. In 53, if you watch that footage of the coronation, it's like a Hollywood epic because you had very primitive cameras right at the back of the abbey, and everything was done in great scope. Whereas this was far more intimate with the powerful zoom lenses, and the king looked, I thought, more tender even than the young queen, actually.
Well, do you know what? I feel like we've got to get to know him a bit better, because before all of this, it felt like, and actually, in a way, and I don't, you know, Harry's books there, and I don't want to bring it in a negative manner, but in a way, he kind of exposed the vulnerability, I think, of King Charles. You know, even the bit about the teddy bear and everything else like that. I initially had seen him as quite aloof, but actually, the more I hear and the more I see about him, he seems to soften. Angela, well, you've met them. You've met them all. Have you met them as well?
Yes.
You've met them as well. But King Charles, he seems like a very gentle man. Actually.
He is a very gentle man. And I think when we saw him, when William touched his crown and then gave him a kiss, and he said, "Thank you, my son." And actually I started crying then. It's just amazing. And I thought that was a real man who needed his children to love him and his grandchildren to love him. He's not someone who's frozen. And I thought that it was absolutely fascinating, actually. And I thought as well that he and Camilla didn't look at each other. Usually when they go anywhere, there's a lot of eye communication. And I felt they both couldn't do that because they would both collapse into tears because it's the stress. They burst into tears after they got married when they went into went up the stairs, and they just burst into tears. And I thought they had to hang on this time. They had to hang on, and I thought they obviously talked about it and didn't look at each other, which is very rare when they're together.
Well, and they understood the solemnity of the occasion.
Yes.
It wasn't even like a wedding when we're used to them actually looking backwards and forwards.
No. Yeah.
Last time the king met me, he called me Craig. I still don't know why, what that meant there. The other thing I thought was, just came to my mind, was actually, we've lost, over the last 10 or 15 years, occasions for common cultural moments, like the Americans call water cooler moments, because we aren't all watching the same 4 channels as we were before. You know, so we aren't watching the Morecambe and Wise Christmas special, or Del Boy falling through the bar of the pub.
I miss those days.
So it's actually only sporting events and these major royal occasions that provide those very rare opportunities when we're all actually watching the same thing, and we can share in great moments of national unity, coming together. And just the same way, these days we don't actually know our next door neighbours if you live in big cities like London and so forth, but it's actually the big lunch or tomorrow and so forth provide those chances to get together in street parties and actually meet each other. So that's another excellent side to the
I thought it was very much that we would feel that this was strong for us. This was a king who would care for us, and I think it makes us feel more confident in this very difficult world. A bit like the Queen when she came to speak when the COVID was on, and she said, you know, we'll meet again. It made so many people feel much better, and I think he has made lots of people feel much better. We don't have to think, well, they just wasted money and all that sort of stuff, and they don't behave properly, and looking for the bad things. But this was seeing absolutely the very, very best of him, and how what a big good monarchy will make for us.
And of course you had Prince William separated from the rest of his family, in between the king, and you sort of realise he's deliberately there to show you the continuity of the monarchy. And of course we knew Prince George actually acting as a page boy too.
Well, they did a bit. When the king put on the gown, obviously William did the button up and everything. There was a shot quickly to Prince George, and it was almost as though Prince George was watching, thinking, I'm going to be doing that one day.
Yeah.
I felt like
Well, you felt it was a family. You could see the line.
He knew that would.
This is what the Queen really wanted, to keep the monarchy going, and we could see it so clearly this time of all the boys who are going to grow into men and become our king. They deserve it, and they're a strong family, and they're very decent, and they will serve rather than expect.
See, that's
us
the
to
thing.
serve.
I think what we saw there,
tremendously good memories.
What we saw there was actually an example of service. Somebody giving themselves, and it was like a sort of, like a marriage to the country. He was almost, a marriage to the country, which is what it looked like to me. And I think that's why the monarchy is so incredible. Well, thank you to Rafe and Angela. Stay with me though. Now though, over to our national reporter Paul Hawkins. He's still out in the mall. He's talking to a load of people. He seems to be attracting a new Italian fan base as well. Paul, I wonder who's going to come and talk to him next. Let's have a chat with him now. Paul, how's it going in the mall?
It's going wet, which is the general theme of today, but we do sing Long to Reign Over Us, and that's literally what's happened today. It's not putting people off, though. We're going to instead speak to a lot of people from Italy, Borough, Middlesbrough, the Solomon Islands as well. We're going to talk to someone from some people from Burton now who've been waiting. Speak to us. Guys, how have you found today?
Awesome. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Patriotic.
The whole thing, even though it was wet, amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Why so amazing?
Because it might never happen again, for us in a way. So you just never know, do ya?
Yeah. You're very chilled out, sir. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What was the best thing you saw today?
It's got to be the red arrows.
I love that. I love that. Everyone, I think you're the first person who said the red arrows, not the golden carriage or anything like that.
It's got to be the red arrows. I've always been a fan of them.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, aren't they? They are pretty cool. Now, we should add, let's just cut to the chase. Yeah, there were lots of good things to see today for you, and it was an important day. But yesterday, that was a big day in your life, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Huge.
Just tell us why.
Believe it. Because the Queen shook hands with us. It was
the
just...
King.
The King.
Yeah. The Queen, the King.
Sorry,
yeah,
the King.
Right.
Oh, absolutely amazing. Just look it was that, where we were, he came across, shook a hand. It was just...
And that was it? Yeah.
Never forget it.
And for you, you're a vehement royalist, aren't you? Let's be honest. You were saying I'm a bit of a royalist. Talk us through how you felt after King Charles III shook your hand.
I felt like it wasn't me. I was like, did that really just happen? I was just standing here on the road, and I've just touched the King. And I'm like, what? Is that really going on? And I'm like, did that really just happen? And I was like shaking, and I'm like just overwhelmed.
And if it had been someone of an equal level of fame, would you have had the same reaction?
I don't think so.
And why is that?
It's just because it's the King. It's like, I'd never dreamed that I would ever get the chance to stand in the same space as the King.
Yeah.
It's just, just because you just see him on the telly, don't you? You only see him on the telly and whatever, but never actually in person. And the fact that I got to see, over to us, do you know what I mean? It was like, you just can't describe it.
You could have gone home yesterday.
Yeah. Just can't describe it. That's what I said to these. I said, I don't care what we do tomorrow, my weekend's complete. That's it.
Great,
I was like that.
And you guys watched the ceremony in Hyde Park?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just very quickly, best highlight of watching the ceremony, do you think, for you? Key moment, very quickly?
The crown. When he was crowned. Yeah, the crowning, definitely. Crowning.
Yeah, the crown. It's got to be the crown, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very touching.
Yeah, really. Like the whole crowd, just like as soon as they put the crown on his head, it was just like, God save the King.
Listen, best wishes to everyone in Burton.
Yeah. Okay.
Take them back for us, okay? Really good talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank
you very much. There you go. So, Nana, we've ticked Burton off on the list now. Who knows who we're going to speak to when you come back to us next?
Well, it'll be exciting to find out. Thank you very much, Paul. That is Paul Hawkins. He's there in the mouth. This is GB News. Welcome on board. If you've just joined me, I'm Nana Akua. It's fast approaching 22 minutes after 5 o'clock. We're live from Buckingham Palace. Lots more coming up on today's show, so stay tuned. Don't miss out on our very special coronation quiz, where some of my guests will be putting their knowledge or not on our King Charles to the test. Back in a moment.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the people's channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Is it sort of afternoon, evening-ish time? 25 minutes after 5 o'clock. Welcome. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. We're live from Buckingham Palace, and not only has Charles become our new king, he's also the head of the Commonwealth. Now, this was originally created by, of course, to bring together the former British territories, but it's now expanded and it represents 1/3 of humanity. So how will King Charles fulfil his role as head of the Commonwealth? Now, this comes after a survey which interviewed 22,000 people in all 15 Commonwealth countries, found that 6 nations voted in favour of ditching the monarchy. Although I think they all agreed they wanted to remain part of the Commonwealth. So joining me now is Sunil Sharma. He's the Chief Operating Officer for the Conservative Friends of the Commonwealth. Sunil, thank you so much for joining me. So this is... Do you think that other countries are thinking that actually they'd like to ditch Charles as the head of the Commonwealth, but ultimately they all want to stay in it, it would appear?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're naturally, obviously, a change of guard, and how long it's been is, a crazy amount of time. So naturally there's going to be question marks of whether they want to carry on with the new monarch. I think when we look at practicality terms, whether that will actually go ahead, I'm not sure. I think they're very likely to stay within the Commonwealth. There's obviously the risk of them becoming republic and leaving the monarchy as part of their constitution. But I always like to take it back to Australia and South Africa, where during the 90s in particular, with Australia, where there was a heavy amount of people that wanted a republic, wanted King Charles to, the Queen to no longer be their monarch. And the reality was, even when the majority of the country didn't want the Queen to stay on as monarch, the alternative in becoming a republic was not as attractive as what they have constitutionally. So if we go back and we look at the constitutional impact of not having a monarch, I think the risk far outweighs than the benefit. So I think with that in mind, I'm more positive that we'll see King Charles continue to reign over a lot of these countries.
It would seem to make sense in terms of the financial side of things as well. The Commonwealth countries, I mean, I know there's we heard in that in the documentary with the Netflix thing, sort of to call it Empire 2.0. I think that's kind of what she was referring to with regard to the Commonwealth. But it's hardly that, actually. I mean, a lot of people don't realise the benefit that the Commonwealth have brought to most of those countries that are within it. I mean, talk to us about the family of the Commonwealth countries and how it's kind of benefited those countries. What's so great about it?
Sure. I mean, the thing that you always have to talk about when we talk about the Commonwealth, unfortunately, is we would have to remind people that this is a voluntary organisation. All 56 countries have chosen to be a part of the Commonwealth. South Africa actually left the Commonwealth and then asked to rejoin, and we're now getting countries that are joining the Commonwealth that have had no ties to the British Empire whatsoever. This year we saw Gambon and Togo. The benefits are extreme. We're seeing it, whether it's trade, whether it's us being able to help on human rights, whether it's our countries now seen as peers, where we're working closer ties together. We've seen the Five Eye movement with Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. There is a massive movement as we obviously a lot of these countries speak the same language. So it makes a lot of sense for us to be closer together. More countries want to join the Commonwealth with the concept of understanding that English is the predominant universal language. Our education system is still one of the best. So there's a real appetite to be a part of the Commonwealth, and I think one of the things where talking of sort of government in terms of post-Brexit plans, there is a massive push on countries who have been, if you like, overlooked in the last few periods for us to build closer trade and closer relationships. And I'd say the most important thing with all the conflict that's going on in the world right now, whether it's Russia, China, these are a block of countries that have shared historic cultural ties, and it makes sense for these countries to be closer together, as opposed to we see the way China is acting with some of the countries in its region. It makes sense for us to have those countries on our same, be on the same team, as opposed to leaving them vulnerable to countries like Russia and China.
Sunil, thank you very much. That's Sunil Sharma. He's the Chief Operating Officer, Conservative Friends of the Commonwealth. I want to bring in Rafe and Angela. They're joining me live here in Buckingham Palace. Rafe, I know you're an expert of the Commonwealth. How do you think Charles will rule within the Commonwealth? Because he doesn't really rule it as such. He just sort of heads it and sort of unites it in a way. I mean, that's kind of his role, do you think? Or what is his role?
That's right. Well, we have to separate the Commonwealth realms, where His Majesty actually is King of Canada, King of Australia, King of Jamaica, and the Commonwealth, which is a free association and is very different. And the unique thing about the Commonwealth is that normally when an empire breaks up, the countries that were colonized can't wait to break away. So look what happened in 1990 with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Poland, Hungary, everyone ran away as fast as they could. Uniquely, the colonies that Britain once colonized understood the value, the inheritance that they had got from Britain, and they wanted to remain in free and independent association. And that's unparalleled.
Although some may argue that actually what it was a way of the British Empire, in a way, kind of maintaining a level of sort of input in the countries that it had colonised, so kind of had a bit of control in a sense.
But it absolutely wasn't. This was a decision. All countries could decide whether or not to join. And in fact, now, of course, you've got, with example of Rwanda and so forth, countries that have no history of being part of the British Empire who are joining. I think I'm not sure that there's any great movement to get rid of the King as head of the Commonwealth. In terms of the Commonwealth realms, you've got a couple of things going on. You mentioned the poll of Lord Ashcroft that looked into this. In terms of Canada and Australia, what's happened, of course, is that we've had mass migration to both countries. Both of those countries, and New Zealand too, were formerly populated primarily by people from the British Isles. But now when you have a vast introduction of people who've got no connection to Britain, no connection to the monarchy at all, it's quite understandable. And then in terms of the Caribbean, but this also applies to Canada and Australia, and also here too, is that the rise of woke ideology and of critical race theory. And so in the Caribbean, what happens is there's a great view in prevailing orthodoxy now about monarchy being tied, indelibly stained by slavery and by colonialism, and no one's actually making the case for monarchy, saying that the countries around the world that are Commonwealth realms are the most stable countries in those regions. The monarchy has actually brought such benefits to those countries by giving it stability that someone needs to make the case for that. And of course, the youth of today in Canada, Australia, in Britain and elsewhere are now being taught by a growing size of a teaching population who have increasingly radical politics. And so it's no surprise, for example, in this country even, where fewer than 10% of teachers vote for the Conservative Party, that the students that they're teaching are now beginning to embrace similarly Republican and other radical viewpoints.
Well, I mean, if it's not a monarchy, it's more politicians, and I don't fancy that. It's coming up to 33 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. We are live from Buckingham Palace. Loads of fun here this afternoon. Are you enjoying yourself? Let me know. You can always send me an email, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or tweet me at GBNews. Plenty more still to come, but first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good evening, I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom at 5:30. King Charles III and Queen Camilla have appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace. They waved to the thousands of people who'd gathered to pay their respects to the new monarchs. They were joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales and their 3 children. 2 of the King's siblings, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, also came out to greet supporters. Due to the weather, a scaled-back flypast of Royal Air Force jets, including the famous Red Arrows, there they are, flew over the palace. The King has become the 40th monarch to be crowned at Westminster Abbey in the first coronation ceremony for 7 decades. Just after midday, the Archbishop of Canterbury placed St Edward's crown on His Majesty's head, fulfilling King Charles's destiny. The multi-faith ceremony, a change from previous coronations, was watched around the world and followed the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, in September.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
The Prince of Wales pledged himself to his father during the ceremony, and afterwards Prince William kissed Charles on the cheek, and the King said a few words to his son. Although Prince Harry did not take an active part in the ceremony, he could be seen repeating the words, "God save King Charles." And just hours before the coronation, police arrested the leader of anti-monarchy group Republic, along with a number of other protesters lining the procession route. Republic had promised to stage the biggest protest against a British monarch in modern history. Activists dressed in yellow T-shirts demanded an elected head of state and said the royal family has no place in modern constitutional democracy. A number of Just Stop Oil protesters were also arrested. You're watching GB News on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. Now it's back to Nana.
Wow, thank you, Bethany. You're watching and listening to GB News. Plenty more still to come this afternoon, including what did the body language expert say? What did he make of some of the family, the royal family, and what they were doing today? What do you think? He'll be telling us that. Plus, we'll be playing our coronation quiz. I've got some great prizes. Well, some of my guests will be heading going head-to-head to see how much they know about our king. So don't go anywhere.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know,
All
Kate
sorts of
Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories. Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, welcome. If you've just joined me, it's amazing. We're here at Buckingham Palace live. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Now, back to body language. Now, it gives away a lot of stuff all the time, doesn't it? Let's people know what you're actually thinking just by the way you're moving. So, what were the royals' body language giving away? So, joining me now is body language expert, a man who knows his stuff, Darren Stanton. Darren, now talk to me about the body language of some of these guys. Give us some examples of what you saw and what you thought that they were showing by the way they were moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing I noticed was when Prince Harry walked into the Abbey, and it felt like he was a little bit of a fish out of water. Now, what I'm looking for in terms of body language is that's related to emotion. So emotion very much affects the way that someone carries themselves. It's not a nice word, but we call it leakage. So what I see with Prince Harry's sort of posture is that initially, I said he did feel quite uneasy. Obviously being the only one there without a partner. So we see sort of facial expressions where he's not that comfortable, and a little bit of anxiety and maybe a little bit of frustration.
Did you say leakage is the word you used there?
Yeah, so the outward signals that we look for is called leakage. So regardless of how well trained somebody is or who they are, we all have the same sort of body language, which is obviously not a nice one again, but we call it leakage.
I was going to say, it's an interesting choice of words, an interesting word. But to be honest, though, I probably could have guessed that he would be thinking that way simply because of what's happened. Who else did you notice then in terms of body language that you thought? Because I thought Camilla looked quite sort of nervous. There was a bit during the sort of church ceremony where Charles did his bit and then you knew it was coming to her bit, and there was almost like the camera went on her and it was almost like she went, I mean, what did you see in her body language?
Yeah, I thought she came over quite well, actually. I think for the most part, one of the things that I look for is what we call a fake smile. Now, basically, there's only 7 basic expressions that a human face can make. So we can be angry, sad, fearful, surprised, etc. So in terms of the happiness or the smile, generally it can be the most fake expression, but with Camilla we did see what we call crow's feet. We saw the whole face engaged, so I actually felt that she came over very, very confident, and obviously with the king less so.
Yeah, so coming on to the king then, because he seemed quite sort of, to me he looked very humble, and his body language, he seemed slightly nervous as well. I don't know, what did you see?
Yeah, I'd actually agree with you. I mean, generally when we see Prince Charles or the king walking around doing various engagements, some of the key tells that he's used in the past that tells us he's been quite unconfident is sometimes he used to tuck his hand in his jacket or play with cufflinks. Obviously with this regalia he can't do that, so I thought he looked quite pale. which again, he did come over quite solemn, quite calm, but at the same time, almost in a way, was overwhelmed by the sort of enormity of the whole situation. So I didn't feel that he came over sort of overly confident. I think he's obviously going with the whole process, but certainly Camilla was the stronger of the two in terms of confidence.
And what about William? Because there was that wonderful moment when he had to do the sort of gown up, his dad's gown and everything. And what did you make of his body language?
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic moment, actually, because at the end of the day, although we're looking at the King and the Prince, they are father and son, so I think there was a moment where King Charles was actually fighting back the tears, and I think William was on the brink of getting emotional as well, as he was reading out the allegiance to his father. So I thought it was a very, very genuine moment between the two of them.
Yeah, you can see that actually, because obviously at home I didn't look at it as closely as I watched it, but seeing it again, I was looking out for it. Well, listen, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining me and your great body language tips. That's Darren Stanton, he's a body language expert. This is GB News. It's coming up to 45 minutes after 5 o'clock, and now we're going to hear from some of our great British voices. Let's find out what they thought of the coronation. Let's speak to John Reid, who's there in Kidderminster, and David Balm in Watford. I'm going to start with you, John Reid, seeing as you're as nearest. John Reid, how did you feel? What did you think about the coronation? And what were you doing during it? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I certainly watched it, Nana. I think we had about 3.5 hours of viewing. Absolutely fantastic. I've been a royalist all my life. I grew up near to Heathrow, so therefore near to Windsor. In my working life, I've been into Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle and so on. My wife, as you can see from the picture, decorated our front room with flags. And the notation you've got there is to my grandson's 10th birthday. He also took an interest in it. He was 10 on Thursday. That was little James. So we had a great day, really. It was just wonderful, and I've all the time in the world for the royal family. Just wish that Harry played a more involved part in it, really. But there you go. That's life.
It's nice to have a peek into John Reid's world. It's very tidy, very, very tidy. You see a peek into my living room, it won't look like that. Let's go to David Balm, who's there in Watford. David, talk to me about your celebration for the coronation. What did you guys do? What did you get up to?
Well, I left home about 7:30 this morning to run the 10K at the Olympic Stadium, which meant I heard it, most of the service, on the radio on the way home. But I came back to the most important bit of watching the crown being placed on King Charles's head. And I actually think he has the opportunity to actually be a fantastic monarch, because he's already carved out a career for himself as an innovator and an environmentalist. I think he's going to be great for the country, and I happily swear allegiance to our king.
Oh, listen, David, it's really good to talk to you as well. That's David Balm there in Watford, and John Reid in Kidderminster. There's our great British voices. That's how they're celebrating. How are you celebrating yours? GBViews at gbnews.uk. Now, thousands of people have been on the mall. Many of them even camped out for days to watch the ceremony. Even the rain didn't put them off. Our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, is in the mall. Let's see what he's found and who's managed to have a chat with him. Paul, what's the mood like there now?
Good, still vibrant and improved markedly with the weather actually. When it stops raining, definitely I think people feel a bit of an uplift and they're not reaching for the umbrellas. We could talk to a family now who are from all parts of the UK, Gloucester, Lancashire,
Kent as well.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Guys, you look amazing. I have to say that.
Thank you.
Have you been wearing this kit all weekend?
No, just today. It's just especially for today.
Yeah. Right, okay, but you were here yesterday, were you?
No, we came down this morning on the 6 o'clock bus. So we got into here just before 9 o'clock.
Yeah. And tomorrow, will you be plans tomorrow? Or?
A bit of a street party tomorrow, I think. So back home and celebrate out with the neighbours tomorrow.
Yeah. And how's the day been for you? Talk us through yourself.
Yeah, today's been different because as I said, it's Coronation, but yeah, it's the atmosphere here as well. But the only downfall is we move up to Hyde Park and watch it on the screen, not getting into the mall itself. Yeah. But overall, it's been good.
Yeah. What was your highlights of the ceremony?
I think just being part of it and then seeing the king get the crown. That's the big thing. We've not seen it before, so yeah, it's really touching. That was.
Yeah. What did you guys make of it?
Awesome.
Awesome, yeah. What was your favourite bit today?
When the crown went on the king's head.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? And what about in the procession, in the parade, as it came down the mall? Was there anything that you liked seeing?
The carriage.
The carriage, yeah. It was pretty good, wasn't it? What do you think?
The carriage too.
The carriage as well, yeah. You're looking incredibly smart. Do you like wearing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. For you guys, what is it about these kind of occasions that really, gets you so excited?
It just brings everybody together. Everybody comes out, even rain. The park was absolutely jam-packed.
Yeah.
So everybody came together despite the weather just to watch this huge occasion in history. So it's something special, it's something unique to us, and it's something for us to all treasure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think it's been a nice day as well. It's not been so great lately. People are struggling with for lots of different reasons, money and whatever. But it's been a day to celebrate. Whether you support the royal family or not, it's been a day to bring people together and celebrate and have something really nice to look forward to.
Good occasion, but does it change anything about the way you see Charles, or indeed the way the country operates?
No, I think it's just the same. You either love the royals or you're against them, and we're a very royalist family, as you can see. So
I hadn't noticed.
So to us, it's magical. We come down for the jubilees when we can, and we'll be down for the events in the future.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be a while now till another one, doesn't it?
Yeah. But
what are you going to do?
Well, I don't know. We're just going to have to just dress up and make our own occasions.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Listen, thanks for speaking to us. Really appreciate it.
Very well.
And
Thank
enjoy
you.
the street party tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. There you go, a little taster of what people will be up to tomorrow. Various street parties happening around the country, and of course that enormous concert in Windsor as well, with quite a wide variety of artists and something for everyone.
Yeah. Well, listen, Paul, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And that is our fabulous reporter, Paul Hawkins. He's out there in the mall. This is GB News. We're live at Buckingham Palace. I'm Nana Akua. Back with me, our royal broadcaster and historian, Rafe Habel-Manku. It's royal biographer, Angela Levin. And they're going to be playing my special coronation quiz. But before that, what's been the standout moment for both days for you? What's yours? So I'm going to start with you, Angela. What's been your standout moment?
There are lots of standout moments, but one of them is when Prince William kisses his father, and it seems that all the rows they've had, the difficulties they've had, that it's accepted him and he will support him, and I think that made me very moved. And the other one was Camilla looking sort of terrified, really. She doesn't like being in the spotlight, and I think that was a very difficult moment for her, because also they had to alter the crown because she's got quite a large head.
She's got a large head?
Yes, and it didn't quite fit, so she was sort of, trying to tell them how to get it down. And I thought, oh, poor woman, it's just so embarrassing for her, but it was fine. They did it in a few seconds. But those two, I think, and the little children, which
little children,
gorgeous.
But I want to find out. I want to do the quiz first, though. Okay, quickly, your standout moment. You've got 20 seconds.
It was the king on the coronation chair, wearing Sir Edward's crown for the only time in his life. We've seen paintings of that sort of thing, but we've never seen in high definition zoom up our king, any king actually, with the offices, with the roles and positions of power in his hands. Magnificent.
I like the way they sort of jiggled the hat about to make sure that.
Can I add that one onto mine?
Well, you've already had to. Right, well, it's time now for my coronation quiz. Please play along at home. Are you ready, guys?
No.
Yes. What's your little sound? Giggle. Have a little sound, so I know.
A bell?
No bell. You make what sound?
Clap.
You made? Just
first hand up.
First hand up. All right. Well, I'll do my best to see. Right. Question 1: which animal has a species named after King Charles III? Is it A, a badger, B, a frog, or C, a dog? Come on, listen.
Badger.
You think it's a badger? Angela, what's your answer? What do you think?
Badger?
Say something different just in case he's wrong. All right, let's have a look. It is, of course, a frog. Why don't you say something different? If he doesn't know what he's doing. Yes, a rare species. Did you get it right at home?
I'm no good at quizzes, I can tell you.
Was named the Prince Charles Magnificent Tree Frog. Yes, it was.
I didn't like that.
Right, question 2 says nil point. Right, question 2. When is King Charles's birthday? Closest answer wins.
14th of November 1948.
Yes, 14th. I know that.
Okay,
yes,
you're too
it's the
late,
same as the former editor of the Daily Mail,
What is
so I
that?
always had to
Bonus
read
point
that.
for
14th November, you get a bonus point for the Daily Mail mention
you.
because of the editor there. 14th November, King Charles, who was born on the 14th November 1948. Absolutely right. Full point to you, half point to Angela. Right, because she knew the answer. Did you get it right at home? Question 3. Which one of these qualifications does King Charles have? Is it A, mountain climbing? Is it B, diving? Or is it C, botany?
Mountain climbing.
Okay, so mountain climbing, botany. Let's see who's right. The answer is... It's diving. Who said diving, Rafe? It's you. Two and a half.
I'm not doing very well. Oh dear.
Yes, diving. King Charles is
very good at melting up
only
hills.
monarch to be a certified diver. Right, question 4. True or false? Now, King Charles is the first monarch to not be homeschooled.
True.
True.
You need to be faster, Angela.
No, I know.
This is true. It is
We can
true.
share that point. We can share
Yeah,
that.
you both have a point there.
Thank
so
you.
It's 3 for you, 1.5 for you.
Yes.
True, he attended the Hill House School in Knightsbridge. All right, so your final question, which is question 5. Which musical instrument can King Charles play? Is it A, guitar, B, a cello, or C, a piano, D, all of the above?
Piano.
I thought it was a harp. But anyway, I have to say all of the above.
All of the above. Let's see if the answer is... It's all of the above, King Charles. What a standout winner right there. It is, of course.
I didn't do very well. I apologise.
No, you did well. Don't worry, Angela. Just write another book. You're going to write one on the coronation. You're going to write one on the coronation. Right. Well, listen, I've got to say, it's been fun. I can't believe it. Thank you so much, you guys. First of all, Ray Five, thank you so much. And also, Angela Levin, it's been a pleasure as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And obviously, a huge thank you to you for joining us here at GB News on this special Coronation Day. I hope that you've enjoyed me. I noticed that the big flag is out behind me. The British public have come out in force. I'm very proud of you. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow at 3. Janine Oliver is next.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Hello, I'm Calvin Robinson. Do not miss my Common Sense Crusade Saturdays at 7 p.m. Join me for some in-depth discussions on faith. Is that not the start of the slippery slope? It's very much so. And the big moral questions of the day. I'm baffled.
You've got some nerve.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, lovely people, and welcome. I am definitely Neil Oliver, and I am definitely live on GB News TV and on radio. Coming up on the show this evening, on this historic day for the nation, I'll be discussing UK sovereignty with the doctors Kat Lindley and Robert Malone. Who will truly reign over us when we sign up to the WHO's Pandemic Preparedness Treaty? And I'll also be joined by the lawyer Francis Hoare, who says I'm worrying about nothing because the UK will always have the final say. All of that, plus plenty chat with my brilliant panellist, Andrew Eborn. But first, an update on the latest news from Bethany Elsey.
Neil, thank you. I am Bethany Elsey with some highlights from today. A moment of history for Commonwealth and country as King Charles III is crowned the nation's monarch. As the Archbishop